For a lot of people new to the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle, the idea of living in Europe is very appealing. There's a romance, a charm, whether it's living in a popular nomad jurisdiction like Portugal or some of the more off the beaten path places that we've talked about over the years. But someone recently asked me, Andrew, you always talk about the places that you love, but there have to be a few places that you've been over the years that you just hate. And so today I'm going to share with you my 3 least favorite capital cities in Europe. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, I've spent over a decade of my life traveling all over the world, built a team of 30 people, and built a network of experts all over the world, including some of the weirdest places in Europe, to help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where they're treated best. You can learn more and read our free articles at nomadcapitalist.com. And today I'm going to talk about 3 places that I personally don't like. Now, I don't like to bring negativity into most of these conversations because to each their own, right? Cities that I don't like, someone else may like. And so this is not a personal attack on these places, but I am going to share 3 capital cities in Europe that I personally just don't gel with. And so you might think that you know what these 3 are, but I'll tell you, Chisinau in Moldova, it has its own charms. It's a kind of a weird vibe, but it's charming in a sense. Sarajevo has a certain enigma to it, even though I was threatened with death by a waiter for saying, "This isn't chicken, this is beef." There are places that, even though they may not be the most livable, they're fun to go to and they're fun to spend time in. And as we talk about here, there's always something to take from each country, whether it's opening a bank account, perhaps a real estate investment, hiring people from that place. And so I like to find the best in every place. But here are 3 cities that, quite frankly, I don't need to go back to. And the first one might surprise you because it's in a country that we talk about a lot, and that's the capital of Montenegro, Podgorica. This probably has to be the most boring capital city in all of Europe, quite frankly. And I remember going there the first time. I've been to Montenegro a few times, and I believe I was flying because Turkish Airlines only flies into Podgorica. I was flying to Hong Kong from Montenegro, and so I drove up. It's a very scenic, windy, hour-and-a-half, 2-hour drive to Podgorica. And so I said, you know what, I'll spend the night before the flight. And so I went up there, checked into a nice little hotel, and started exploring. And I found practically nothing, quite frankly. And I've since been back. I've been interviewed on Montenegro's television channel, and there's some very nice people there. They even had their own Hard Rock Cafe for a while. But quite frankly, I think that if you spend about an hour and a half walking around Podgorica, you'd be quite satisfied. Are there some real estate opportunities there? Maybe. For a capital city with university students and government workers, properties are still pretty cheap. You can find some bargains, if not perhaps great people to manage it. But Podgorica, not a city that I'm going to rush to go back to, and it's the one thing that Mrs. H and I, whenever we're in Montenegro, if we have to go there to do something, we roll our eyes. Number 2 on the list is a place that a lot of Europeans have talked about moving to for the tax benefits, and that is the capital of Bulgaria, Sofia. I spent some time in Sofia, and quite frankly, I just don't get it. Among Eastern European cities, Kiev, Moscow, Tbilisi. I can name Belgrade. So many different cities that to me have so much more charm. Belgrade certainly is not as polished as Budapest, for example, to its north. And, while Sofia isn't polished either, it doesn't have the charm that Belgrade does. I quite frankly don't understand what the appeal is of Sofia. You want to talk about Plovdiv, you want to talk about some of the smaller parts, the nature of Bulgaria, all right, maybe. I can still argue I'd rather go to Batumi in Georgia for Black Sea coast than some of the resorts in Bulgaria, but the capital city I just don't get. Now again, there are times when I'll suggest someone get a Bulgarian company because that's the best company for their particular strategy and where they want to live and how they want to run their business. Perhaps a Bulgarian bank account as much as they become more difficult. But I feel like in a small way, Sofia has benefited from folks in the EU who look at it as, I can move there, I don't need a residence permit, I don't need anything else, and I can avail of a low 10% flat tax rate, which is fine, but quite frankly, you can get a low 10% tax rate or less, all the way down to 0 as a European, in a lot of places that quite frankly are more interesting. I understand some people want to be close to their family, but I think in Europe, and anywhere nearby, you can find much better places than Sofia. Leave a comment below if you disagree. I want to hear from you. Nothing wrong with with the people there. I love the Bulgarian people, but I can tell you, I just don't feel it. Doesn't mean you don't. Nothing against the city, but I just don't feel it. The third city on the list is one that's totally different, and that is Copenhagen. I also don't get it. I mean, it's beautiful, no doubt, but for me, there's just not the charm. If you look at that typical Scandinavian, vibe, perhaps it's because I have some Norwegian descent, but for me, Bergen in Norway or even Oslo, I mean, it just feels more vibrant. I just get into it more than I do in Copenhagen. Can I afford 27 euros for a beer? Sure, but it gets irritating pretty quickly, quite frankly. So does the sun setting at, 1 in the afternoon in the winter or whatever it does, or, the sun coming up at 2 in the morning in the summer. I just don't get it. And, nothing against the Danish people. I think it's a little bit of a ballyhooed country. I mean, we're the happiest people in the world. I don't know, I go to a lot of countries. I see people that are pretty happy, and they're not paying 27 euros for a beer. I literally think my first day there, admittedly kind of in a touristy area, I think I had the fish and chips, and I had a beer. I never drink beer, but I wanted to have one of their beers. I think it was like the equivalent of 50 euros. And, for me, even if you can afford that, right? I don't see the benefit of overpaying to have high taxes, to have lots of regulations, just to live in a country and to live in a city that ranks highly on very Western-centric lists. You go to the Philippines, a lot of them are pretty happy too. Malaysia, those people are really happy. And, quite frankly, I'll live in Malaysia before I'll live in Copenhagen. Now, I know we're talking about Europe, but I just don't get this city. It's pretty, no doubt, but for me, if I had to make a list of the 3 worst capital cities in Europe, that would round out the list. Now, I'm sure you'll have your own list. I'm sure there will be some cities that you don't like. I'd like you to leave a comment below, and I would love to hear your feedback. Which city or cities am I wrong about? Which city should be added to the list? Or if you agree, why do you agree? I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. What is your least favorite capital city in Europe? How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.